come through. We've got chat there where you can communicate. And the invitation is that when someone has spoken is that we get to ask questions rather than do our own presentation on top and come with some styly, on top of that. If you feel that you want to do a presentation, then let us know. We'll make space for you at a future date. But it's the opportunity for who is presenting to be presented with questions rather than anything else. Okay. So do you want to say about Professor Les, or shall I say?
No, you can say. You've got the floor.
Sure. So Professor Les was billed to appear this evening, and unfortunately he can't be with us this evening. But I do have a commitment from him for a date in September. So watch this space. He'll come back and he'll give us the outer view of the reasons why we, me, you, us, why we come first. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that note, I'm going to introduce our very first presenter for this evening's session, Brother Elder Vasco Stevenson, and his presentation is going to be about the history of Africans at the Panama Canal. And because Dr. Les is not going to be with us this evening, Vasco Stevenson is going to do a part 1 now, and is going to do a part 2 of the Africans at the Panama Canal at 9:10. So we've got the privilege of having Brother Vasco twice in one evening. So looking forward. So Brother Vasco, Elder Vasco Stevenson, I introduce you. The floor is now yours, and welcome. If you'd like to unmute yourself. You're still muted. You're still muted, Brother Vasco. You have to unmute yourself. Brother Vasco, can you hear me? Brother Vasco? I don't know if he's on the phone. Brother Vasco?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I was beginning to think you was on the phone having another conversation.
No, it's just flashed up on my screen. Unmute yourself.
Okay.
And the irony of it is I can see you, your beautiful smile, talking, and I'm responding, and I can't get through to you. But you can hear me now, yes?
We can hear you now. We couldn't hear you before, so right. But now. So
right.
Yes, the screen is now yours, Elder Vasco Stevenson.
You can see the presentation, correct?
I can see you at the moment.
What about the presentation itself?
Are you doing a screen share?
Yes, it should be screen share, yes.
Okay, so if you want to do a screen share, if you click on the screen share button.
I'm trying to find it.
It's at the bottom. It's in green. Well, it's green on my computer. It should be green.
Nope, I seem to have a technical issue here because Zoom seemed to have changed or disappeared a little bit.
Okay.
If you use your cursor down, maybe it will pop up.
Okay. Sorry.
You've got some commands at the bottom of your screen.
I'm trying to find them, but I can't see them there.
If you move your cursor down, it might pop up. Maybe it's gone down.
All right.
So if you move your cursor down, the commands may pop up.
Well, I've moved the cursor right down to the bottom, and
nothing's come up.
Nothing has happened so far.
Go on. You're on widescreen. Go on small screen.
I am on small screen.
Oh, you're on screen. Okay.
Yes, but I can see there's something else at the bottom, but I can't get it to come into view properly, so I don't know what's going down.
Okay. Can you see a green?
I'm not a technical buff. You may have gathered that.
Okay. Can you see anything green at the bottom?
Well, the edges of 3 green things at the bottom. Yes.
Okay, because one of those would be your screen share. So I don't know if you can click on that and see what happens. Or one of them? One of them should be green.
It comes up, just says Zoom at the top of it.
Oh. Okay. I don't know. I can't help you other
I have
than.
no idea what has happened.
Okay.
Right.
Can I try?
Yeah, sure.
What are you seeing on your screen now, please?
I see a picture of you, Ralston, and I can see the first slide in the presentation. That's about it.
Okay. So.
Have you got screen share? Does it say screen share at the top?
No.
You want to come
says,
out of it?
All right. It says the presentation, the Panama Canal. Okay.
Okay, go onto your Zoom page, because I think you might be on the page where you've got, you know, your actual presentation is. So if you go onto your Zoom.
Yeah, but I can see you, Auntie Jean, quite clearly.
Okay, so you're on
that
it.
means that I'm on Zoom.
Yeah.
But it's got Zoom in the middle, big, and that's it.
Oh, Royston?
Right, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, are there some commands there?
Nope.
All right, double click on your Zoom screen.
Okay, bear with me. Double click, nothing's happening.
Right,
Nothing is happening.
All right, the image of your presentation.
Yes.
What does it say in the bottom left-hand corner of that image?
Slide 1 of 81, English United Kingdom. That's what it says.
Okay, and that's all that's on there?
That's all I can see, yes.
Okay, back at the bottom of your screen,
yes,
there should be another Zoom button. Zoom appears twice. There should be another Zoom Zoom icon there.
Nope.
Okay, what does it say on the top right-hand corner of your Zoom screen?
On the top right-hand corner, there's a little image of a camera at the bottom, and when I click that, I see your picture come up at the top right-hand corner.
Of the Zoom page rather than just the screen, yeah?
Yes, on the Zoom page, yes. It says Zoom in the top left-hand corner, Zoom in the middle, and there's a picture of you, and then it says at the bottom right-hand, open chat or something like that, open chat support, which I don't think we require.
So next to chat, it should be saying share screen.
Nope.
In the top right-hand corner,
yes,
of the Zoom page, what does it say there?
There's nothing.
Just put your cursor in that top right-hand corner
yes.
of the Zoom page. And does anything come up?
Nope.
Nothing at all. Move it around in that area.
Nothing at all.
Okay, bring it down to the bottom of the Zoom page, not the screen with you on or me on, but the page. Does it highlight anything?
Nope. All I can see here is Zoom in the middle, big Zoom in the middle of the page. That's all there is to it.
Do you have WhatsApp on your phone?
I do have WhatsApp on my phone, yes.
Can we connect on WhatsApp for a second?
I'm sorry about this, but
it's okay. It's technical. Right. We've all got to get our heads around it.
Yeah, but it appeared to be working okay when Ralston first talked me through it, but then for some unknown reason, it's just gone off. Okay, I have got my WhatsApp.
Gremlins.
Can you answer me WhatsApp with your camera?
Yes, I'm answering you. Yes.
And can you turn your camera so I can see your computer, please?
Okay. Can you see it?
Right. in the top right-hand corner, you've got 3 buttons. Just minimize. The first one is minimize. Can you minimize that?
I've just done it, and the present.
Also minimize that screen.
Minimize the presentation, right?
Right. Now at the bottom it's Zoom.
Sorry?
At the bottom, just by the left hand of that person, does it say Zoom?
No. When I click to go on to the button that would take me to the internet.
Just listen to me, please.
Yes.
Show me back the screen. I'm not seeing. Okay, down the bottom of the screen. Bit more. I need to see a bit more.
Well, that's as far as it goes.
No. Your phone camera. I need to be seeing the screen.
Can you see it there?
The bot. Okay. So by that person's left hand, what is that icon in the?
This one.
What is that icon?
That's your picture.
Yeah. Right. Click on that icon.
I just done, and your picture has popped up on the top right-hand side of the screen.
Okay. Go to that picture, please.
Yes.
I need you to point the camera at you're seeing WhatsApp.
Can you see that?
I am. Get me a bit closer. Right, so go to the top right-hand corner. And click.
Of the screen with the picture of you on it?
Yes.
Is that it?
So what's happening is that you're trying to show me the image through WhatsApp, but you're moving around.
Okay, I've now got the proper screen in front of me, I think, because I've got an image of all of you and it says share screen.
Right. So
Yay!
Click on the image that you want to share first. Or click on share screen, the green button that says share screen.
Yes.
Then click on your presentation.
Yep.
Right. Okay, you're not on the presentation currently.
Not yet, no. Hold on. Bear with me.
Stop sharing.
Okay.
So listen to me.
Yes.
Listen to me.
Yes, I'm listening.
Go to the top and stop sharing.
Stop share. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Now go to the image of your presentation. Go back to share screen.
Share screen.
Go to the image of your presentation.
Yes.
Highlight the image of your presentation.
Highlight it.
Yes, put your cursor on it and click. Right, and now go to the bottom right-hand corner and click share screen. In the bottom right-hand corner, it says share screen of the whole screen, the full screen, not of that image.
Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
That's it.
Okay, so now make your presentation larger. Okay, you're good to go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay. Right. Are we ready to go now, Auntie Jane?
Yes. If you're
All right,
ready, we're
okay.
ready and
Right.
waiting.
Right. Now that means that I've got to hurry up or cut down what I have to say a little bit. Yes?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, right. I'm going to jump straight into it. And there's someone calling me on my mobile now.
That's typical.
All right. Okay. The title of the presentation is West Indians at the Panama Canal. Now, if you were to take up any history book to read about the Panama Canal, which is generally regarded as a great feat of engineering, perhaps one of the greatest feats of engineering in the recent world, you would get a very sanitized and romantic version of what took place at the Panama Canal. What they do not do is give you the human aspect of what took place there, okay? So to understand what really happened at the canal, we have to look at what was there before. And what happened is that if you wanted to go from the eastern part of America, say here where New York is, if you wanted to go to the west, you either had to get a mule train or get a steamship and come down right around South America, a distance of 21,000 kilometers. Alternatively, you could come down to what we now know as Panama, but was known as the Isthmus at that time, and was part of Colombia, okay? You would then travel up about 25 miles, and then you would have to get a mule train to finish that journey, all right? So you can see the necessity of having a shortcut from the Pacific Ocean over here to the Atlantic over here, all right? Now, this gives you an overview of the situation. And what we're going to do to begin, we're going to talk about the railway, which is featured by this red line here, because before the canal itself was constructed, you had to construct, they had a railway constructed, okay? So let me very quickly run through this with you, and by reading this poem with you, you'll get a clearer picture of what took place. And this poem is called Beyond the Chagres. The Chagres is the main river that supports the canal. And without this river, there would be no canal because the canal depends on water. So beyond the Chagres River are paths that lead to death, to the fever's deadly breezes, to malaria's poisonous breath. Beyond the tropic foliage where the alligators wait are the mansions of the devil, his original estate. Beyond the Chagres River are paths for air unknown, with a spider neath each pebble, a scorpion neath each stone. 'Tis here the boa constrictor his fatal banquet holds, and to his slimy bosom his hapless guest enfolds. Beyond the Chagres River lurks the culga in his lair, and 10,000 dangers hide in the noxious air. Behind the trebling leaflets, beneath the fallen reeds, are ever-present perils of 1,000,000 different breeds. Beyond the Chagres River, 'tis said the story's old, are paths that lead to mountains of purest virgin gold. But 'tis my firm conviction, whatever tales they tell, that beyond the Chagres River, all paths lead straight to hell. Okay, now this was written by James Stanley Gilbert, who actually worked in that area, and he lived from 1855 to 1906. And I asked the question, all paths lead to hell. Now, is he referring to hell as in Hades, or is he referring to a living hell? So at the end of the presentation, I'm going to ask you whether you think it was hell as in Hades or a living hell, okay? Now, it is said that the Panama Canal is 50 miles long. That is as much as from Brighton to London, or London to Brighton, okay? And they have said that 500 deaths took place for every mile of canal. So that would make the figure 25,000. But I'm certain that after this presentation, you're going to agree with me that that is a gross underestimation of the number of people who actually died, right? And you can see here, the top is the Caribbean Sea, which is part of the Atlantic Ocean. And here at the bottom, the Gulf of Panama, okay? And normally, between high tide and low tide, there's only a difference of about 3 to 4 feet. So the water will either rise or fall, according to which tide it is, by about 3 to 4 feet. But with this canal, with this bay here, the shape of the bay, the difference between the tides, high tide and low tide, is approximately 21 feet. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because to understand what happened to some of the people who went there before, you have to factor that into the equation, right? Now, phase one was the railway, and that went the 50 miles from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Construction began in 1850. In 1853, the railway employed 1,590 men, and 1,200 of them were Black, or I'm going to take that out and say Africans, okay? And the railway was completed in 1855. Now, the reported deaths for the railway were estimated at between 6,000 and 12,000. And that is a gross understatement because the managers, the owners of the railway deliberately misrepresented the number of deaths, because if they had told the true figures, the shareholders in their companies would probably have demanded their money back and the company would have folded. So they deliberately understated the number of deaths. So when we say 12,000, that is a gross understatement. Ironically, records were only kept for whites. No records were kept for Africans. And the first labor force on the railway consisted of West Indians, Chinese, and when I say West Indians, I'm saying Africans as well, Chinese, Irish, English, Germans, and Indians. And really it's the top three who really matter in this exercise. So the Irish were there, about 800 of them. They could not take the conditions under which they had to work. A lot of them died from malaria, and the rest just left and went to United States of America, especially around New York, okay? They then brought some Chinese in, again, about 800. And out of those 800, it is said that 600 committed suicide because conditions were so atrocious that they couldn't take the pace, so to speak. And I came across a couple of reports that said, coronavirus. Sorry. I came across a report that said that 200 of them actually went out into the Pacific at low tide and waited until the tide came in and drowned themselves. Some were even paying some of their colleagues to shoot them. In the end, there were only 200 Chinese left. They were then sent to Jamaica, and that gave rise to the origins of the Chinese in Jamaica. Okay? Well, then they brought the Africans in, and the Africans were, according to the constructors of the railway, the only people who could take the pace because they were accustomed to hardship, they were accustomed to extremely hot weather and very adverse conditions. And the Africans actually built the canal. Without them, there would have been no canal. But as I said at the beginning of the presentation, all the literature that you would have read is sanitized and romanticized, and they have been written out of the construction of the Panama Canal. Now, to get them there, the managers and owners of the railway made promises to them. And these promises were basically, okay, you're going to get good wages and you're going to have a high standard of living. But the reality was completely different. Diseases of all type, snakes, accidents of all type. They were working 10 to 14 hours per day in temperatures of 100 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit, extremely poor accommodation, and near slave labor. Remember, although legally slavery was supposed to have been abolished, in reality and in practice, it still existed, right? So they were getting about 10 cents per hour if they got paid a toll. There was constant rainfall. And then, of course, there was something called Jim Crow etiquette. I don't know if you're familiar with Jim Crow, but I'm going to touch on Jim Crow in a little bit more detail so that you can see the conditions, not only physical, but social conditions under which these people had to work, okay? So Jim Crow etiquette, we experience a little bit of it here, you know, no Irish, no blacks, no dogs. But in America, it was colored serves in the rear, no dogs, Negroes, or Mexicans, and of course, separate restrooms. But that's the superficial bit of it. Let's take a deeper look at Jim Crow. And this is only the etiquette at this stage, okay? It was later made law. So we're dealing with the etiquette. Reckless eyeballing was the offense of a black man looking at a white woman. And the penalty for that was either physical abuse by other whites or jail or death. A white person of any age gets served in a store before a black person, regardless of who was there first, right? I experienced a little bit of that back in the Caribbean where I come from. Black people were not allowed to try on shoes or clothes in department stores. They had to be bought without making sure they fit, and they could not be returned. In the case of interracial collisions, only the black person would be arrested, even if he were not the guilty party. And in traffic, blacks who passed whites or even pulled up next to them, and black people, yes, at that time there were black people driving cars and buses and other things like that. But if you pulled up beside a white person, you could be fined or harassed. And that's part of it. Bumptious contact was refusing to make way for a white person on the sidewalk or pavement. And the penalty, of course, was physical or verbal abuse or even jail. Blacks must never suggest or intimate that a white person was lying. Blacks were not allowed to show affection towards each other in public because it offended whites. White motorists had a right of way at all intersections, even if the light was not in their favor. Blacks were called by their first names, but had to address whites by Mr. or Mrs. Blacks could never claim or demonstrate that they had superior knowledge to whites. And a white person could commit a crime and nominate a black person to serve his sentence for him. You understand all of that? A white person could commit a crime and then nominate a black person to serve his sentence for it. And in Key West in Florida, it was the duty of the Provost Marshal Philo to enforce the sunset rule or curfew. And at that time, a bell would ring at sunset and white people would start to say, "Run, nigger, run, Philo will get you. Wish I was in Philo's place. I'd give them niggers a longer race." So these are the social conditions under which they had to work and live. So they had the physical atrocities, and now we have the psychological, social ones. The amenities for whites who went to the Isthmus, as it was then called, to work on the railway. And most of these whites came from the southern parts of the United States of America, which of course we know was Confederate territory, okay? And they were given new cottage homes, public schools, churches, bakeries, etc., bowling alleys, billiards, chess, and rent-free houses for married workers. And so this gave rise to, they didn't say white and black. They said gold and silver. If you were on the gold roll, you were white. If you were on the silver roll, you were black, okay? So whites got 42 days paid vacation, 30 days paid sick leave, free benefits and services, and their wages were paid in gold. Whereas blacks, and these are the registered blacks, because some blacks turned up and were not registered, and they only knew them by their first name. 72 in a hut that was 50 feet by 30 feet. Okay? Mess halls with no tables or chairs, so they were eating while they sat on the floor. And there were about 8,000 a day eating in this mess hall. And the wages were paid in silver, and often it was 2 to 3 weeks late. So you can see a great disparity in the working conditions, you know, for blacks and whites. And this is an image of what are known as the silver people. They're waiting to get paid by the pay car, okay? And here's a testimony from a gentleman called S.W. Plume, who was a reporter from New York. And I'm going to read it very quickly. From Cologne in the north, the Panama Railroad ran regular funeral trains out to the cemetery. It was called Monkey Hill each morning. And S.W. Plume wrote in his article back to his newspaper, which was entitled Over to Panama, it was the same way, bury, 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 running 2, 3, and 4 trains a day with dead Jamaica niggers all the time. It did not matter any difference whether they were black or white, because a few whites died as well. To see the way they died there, they died like animals. This is what he wrote back to his newspaper in New York, okay? And what is this all about? Well, when I show this slide, a lot of people think, well, okay, Panama, a tropical country, lots of rain, must be full of rum. Well, let's look at the next page, because that explains it all. This came from Popular Science Monthly Magazine in 1875. Everything about the mortality rate is guesswork. Educated guesses hobbled together by reports from journalists, eyewitnesses, and US congressional hearings. And these estimates range from 22,000 to 82,000 deaths. There were so many bodies to dispose of that the railway officials began to treat them as commodity. Commodity. The railroad pickled the corpses of the nameless dead in wooden barrels and sold them to medical schools. Income generated from the cadaver business was sufficient to maintain the railroad's own gleaming new whites-only hospital. Now, can you imagine a poor woman sitting down in Kingston or wherever, Negril, Savannah, Lamar in Jamaica? George has gone off to Panama. He hasn't had the decency to write and let us know how he's getting on. But where's poor George? Somewhere else in some lab, somewhere else in the world, a cadaver being sliced up for research. You'll never see this in a book. And what they did, they asked the owners of the railway if they could change the name of the cemetery from Monkey Hill to Mount Hope, because that was all they had, a little bit of hope that there was a superior being perhaps that was going to give them some kind of relief from what they were experiencing, okay? This lady happened to be there as well because her brother ran a hotel beside the railway, and she spent 2 visits there, one in 1851 and one in 1854. And there's another little bit that I think I ought to share with you about this lady, Mary Seacole, in that it was around, I think, 1832 when there was a cholera outbreak in Kingston, and she was perhaps the first person in the world to link cholera with dirty drinking water, but she got no credit for it. Basically because I think due to racism, she was not a fully white person, as you know. And of course, she was not a professionally trained nurse. She learned most of her techniques, nursing techniques from her mother, all right? And I think those 2 things, living in a white, extremely racist situation, played against her. Now, the canal itself, there was by a Frenchman called Ferdinand de Lesseps, who had just finished building the Suez Canal. And he was offered the opportunity to build the a canal stretching from the Pacific to the Atlantic across this part of Colombia known as the Isthmus, which we now know as Panama. He came, had a look at it, and he thought it was just a piece of cake because the Suez Canal, of course, no rainfall. All you had to do was move away some sand, then you had bedrock, and you dig through the bedrock, which was not as long as the Panama Canal was going to be, and that was it. So he thought the same thing applied to the canal. That turned out to be a complete and total disaster, and the death toll under him was approximately 22,000. His company went bust, and you can see here that they were mainly from Jamaica, and approximately 15,000 were from Jamaica. But this is an underestimation. Okay? And the main causes of death between 1881 and 1889 were train derailments, falls from trains and dirt cars, being crushed under landslides because the topography was very threatening. You had a lot of landslides, lots of rain, and of course you're trying to construct a railway, you're down in the valley digging a ditch, and the size of the mountains were just falling on you. And needless to say, they would leave those people right there noxious gases. And I came across a couple of reports that said that on one occasion, the sun was completely blocked out, no light, and they thought that the rain was going to fall, but it turned out to be a swarm of mosquitoes. And that swarm was so large that it was blocking out the sun completely. Okay? Now, Auntie Jean, do you want me to stop now and finish the first half?
Yes, yes, because you'll be right on cue. Yes.
I'm sorry?
1 minute. Yes, because you'll be right on cue, and they can do the second part after 9.
Okay, right.
Okay.
And if I encounter any technical challenges, I will.
Royston to the rescue.
All right, and I see you've got the lovely Junie Mohammed in the house.
Yes, Junie's in the house. Welcome, Junie.
Haven't seen her for donkey's years.
Wow.
We have to talk because I need you on my radio program again. Yeah.
You hear that,
right.
Junie? I don't know. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Thank you. So if you stop screen share now.
All right. Okay.
And thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Just a sec.
Okay.
I found
Yes,
that really
thank you.
interesting. Although horrific as it was, but then our history has always been horrific, violent, destructive, painful.
John marks the location where the locust have laid.
How much is left on the account? I'm going to go check. I don't believe this.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Was that a question, Patricia?
No, let's roll. It was just a statement.
Okay. All right then. And with that, we're going to move swiftly on to our next presentation, and which is Dr. David Michaels, MBE, and he's going to be talking about his prostate cancer, his journey. Dr. David Michaels.
Good evening, everyone.
Ready?
Good evening, Aunt Jean. Good evening, everyone.
Right.
Yep, ready to go.
The screen is yours, and welcome.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
So, yeah, I haven't got any slides tonight, so please bear with me just talking through my testimony with prostate cancer. I went to my doctor, my GP, in 1998, October. And I can't remember why I went, but I didn't go about prostate cancer. But while I was there, I asked my doctor for a PSA blood test, and she did the blood test. And I think compared to some of the challenges other men face, she did the blood test. Now, after she did the blood test, when the results came back, she said to me, "Your PSA is slightly raised," but she didn't tell me what that meant. She had no explanation, and she offered no solution. But because I'd had a little insight into the prostate cancer, I actually asked her, I said, "Doc, would you please send me to the urology clinic for a further evaluation?" So she signed the paper and sent me to the urology clinic to see a specialist. So when I went there, they did a physical examination, and they also did a biopsy. What the biopsy is, it takes samples from different parts of your prostate. And at the outset, I should say, to be absolutely clear, only men have a prostate, and the prostate is the size of a walnut, and it's immediately under your bladder. And that location of the prostate will become, as I say a bit more, the relevance will become clearer. So the specialist took some samples in the biopsy. Two things happened really. The physical examination, the specialist said that there was a node, basically a growth on my prostate. There was something there that I wasn't born with. And then when the results of the biopsy came back, I went for the result, and now I was told, "You have prostate cancer." And immediately the specialist started talking to me about the options available. And I was told, "Well, don't make a rush decision. Go away and think through some of the options and what might work for you." And when I went back for my next appointment, the consultant told me they had had a case conference, and they decided, because of my age and relative good health, they were recommending that I basically had the diseased prostate removed. And I was happy to go along with that, because I thought those are the specialists, and if they make a recommendation, I wouldn't try to second guess it or try to go for another option. So I had my diseased prostate removed by keyhole surgery. So keyhole surgery means they make a number of holes around in your stomach, around your navel. So some of the holes are for them to put a camera in, so the surgeon can look at what's going on. The other ones are to put the instruments in to conduct the procedure. Because before that, it was literally cutting through your stomach muscles to get to the prostate, which is a lot of trauma and a lot of bleeding. So the keyhole surgery is less trauma, less bleeding, and you can get home pretty quickly after the procedure. So my procedure was successful and I went home relatively quickly. Because of, as I said, where the prostate is in relation to the bladder, I had to wear a catheter for some days after the procedure, as well, even after going home. And for quite a period after the procedure, I was an outpatient, so they had to keep checking my recovery, and there came a time where they had to remove the catheter. Again, just the catheter is a way of helping you passing urine, bypassing how you normally do it, to allow the impact of the surgery to heal. So one of the issues is about life after the procedure. Before I had the procedure, I actually used to eat a lot of takeaway meals. And then I adjusted. After that, I did a lot of home cooking and was acutely aware of what I was eating, because if you want to give yourself a chance to, in terms of preventative measures, your diet and your lifestyle is important. It's equally important after someone like me who has had prostate cancer. Your diet and your lifestyle is really important. So I made a good adjustment in basically doing mostly home cooking. And also when I was doing my shopping, having a look at what I was buying. Because in terms of preventative healthcare, having a healthy diet and how you prepare your food is very important in terms of preventative healthcare. So immediately after I came out of hospital, I was really concerned to let my immediate family, the men in my immediate family, but basically every man that I know. Unfortunately, there are a lot of men who not only do they not talk about the prostate and other health issues, but even those who have been diagnosed feel the need to keep it a secret, so they don't always tell their own family, and they certainly don't tell their friends and acquaintances. But I realized that I was privileged to have had my prostate cancer detected early and treated, so I could get back to a healthy life. So I certainly had no hesitation in, first of all, telling all the men in my immediate family, but then basically I tried to tell every man that I knew in all walks of life about my experience, and then to encourage them to go and get a test. The first thing that happens is the simple blood test, which is the PSA blood test, which gives an indication of the health of the prostate. And I think a lot of men are put off about the physical examination, which is called a digital rectal examination. But what I say to people, it's not, this examination is done by professional people. You know, you're not getting examined by someone who's just walked off the street. These are professional people who know their job, and they do it in a professional and sensitive and caring way. But I do know that puts off a lot of men. So in terms of diet, there's a lot of things. So some of the things I cut out, like fizzy drinks, and also frying foods, which I think is quite prevalent in Caribbean community, frying, roasting, burnt food, barbecue. I stay clear of roast and burnt food, because the burnt food creates the condition where cancer can develop. And then there are some what they call superfoods that are positively helpful. I think the scientists are careful not to say those foods definitely prevent cancer, but they definitely play a good role. And that's things like broccoli, drinking green tea, processed tomatoes. They've got something called lycopenes. So all of these things create a condition that keeps cancer away. And it's not only for prostate, it's all cancers. So diet and your lifestyle, not overdoing things like alcohol, and basically just taking care of yourself is very important. And prostate cancer is a silent killer. I will say something about symptoms or signs, but it's really important that men don't wait till they actually have any signs or symptoms, because some people die of prostate cancer and they've never had any symptom. I mean, I wasn't in any discomfort, I wasn't in pain, there wasn't any reason apart from the fact that, and I couldn't tell you today why I went to see my doctor about some other things, and I just asked her if I could have the test to check my prostate. So it's really, really important that early testing and regular testing. So I think any man over 40 should really have a PSA blood test every year. And early testing, diagnosis, and treatment gives you a good chance. Some men are in the high risk group. Unfortunately for us, black men are in the high risk group, and we get diagnosed more frequently than white men. So that's a really important reason why we should take it seriously, take our life seriously, and get checked. So I was one of the lucky ones, if you want to put it like that, that was tested early, diagnosed early, treated early. One of my brothers died from prostate cancer. Unfortunately, his prostate cancer spread. It got into his bones, and once it got into his bones, he didn't stand any chance. He died at 65, which isn't that old in this day and age. I've known many other people who were not diagnosed early, and the treatment is a lot more invasive and aggressive. So apart from just getting the diseased prostate removed in my case, I didn't need any extra treatment. I didn't need radiotherapy. I I didn't need any invasive or harsh treatment. I didn't even need any drugs of any sort. Although, as I said, there are actually no symptoms for prostate cancer, but because it's so close to the bladder, when the cancer starts developing, it impacts with your, thank you very much, Royston. It starts impacting with your bladder and your waterworks. So some of the things that can happen is that you find you're urinating more often than before. You have difficulty in urinating. You're straining to, and it's taking a long time to finish passing your urine. You'll have a feeling that your bladder is not emptied. And there is what is called urgency. And although I said I didn't know I had any symptoms, but the issue of urgency really did apply to me, because there was a time came when I really felt I was desperate. I really had to go to pass water, really desperately. I couldn't hold it back. And that's obviously was a thing that I had, I needed to get my prostate checked. One of the, some of the other symptoms are really, if you get that, then I think you're in real difficulty. If you start having pain in your lower back, if you start having blood in your urine, visible blood in your urine, or in your, when you ejaculate with your sperm. So obviously you're probably quite a long way down, and you probably need quite invasive treatment if those symptoms are present. Where can you get support and assistance? Obviously your GP, as I said, any man over 40, and now I think the NHS have said any man over 50 is entitled to have a PSA, any man 50 or over, but I would strongly recommend that any man 40 and above should have an annual blood test. And also, if you have prostate cancer in your family, like if your father or your uncle or a brother has had prostate cancer or urinary problems, then it's even more important that you get yourself checked out. Where can you get help and assistance? Your GP is the first port of call. Unfortunately, some GPs are ignorant, so I would say to any man, if you go and your GP is giving you a hard time, then speak with one of the, I will mention the prostate cancer charities. So there's a charity called Prostate Cancer UK. Cancer Research UK has specialists. The Prostate Cancer UK has specialist nurses that you can ring up and ask for advice and assistance. And there are black cancer community organizations like Cancer Black Voice and other support networks. Most of them you can find on the internet, but I'll be very happy if anybody has any concerns or anybody wants any follow-up. If you get in touch with me, I'll only be very happy to be of assistance. After I came out of hospital, apart from directly telling people I knew about prostate cancer, I started a Facebook group which now has a lot of men who've experienced prostate cancer. It's got their families. It's got families of those who've lost people with prostate cancer. It's got some specialist nurses and urologists. So it's a good mix, and it's got a good international following. I've also done things like radio phone-in programs for helping to raise awareness. BBC London with Dr. Nadi Bayo. The late Darcus Ho and I did a double page in the Voice newspaper, and I go around to church and faith groups, community groups and organizations to give my testimony. And just before I finish, what I would like to say is, although only men have a prostate, only men that have prostate cancer or other prostate problems, the women listening in, you can also play a big part, because I've had a number of friends who told me that, a number of my female friends who said that, yeah, their partner started getting up in the middle of the night. They couldn't get a nice sleep because he was up all the time. And they said, come, let's go and get you checked out. And some of them found that their partner had prostate cancer. So I would ask, as well as asking every man listening to this, or any man that the information is shared with, please don't say this is, oh, that's quite an interesting thing. Please go and get your blood test later this week or early next week. And the women, females listening in, please pester your partner, the men in your family, extended family in your networks. Please pester them to go and have a blood test to check their prostate, and they should really do that every year. Although I've been cancer-free since 2009, every year I still have a PSA blood test. And thankfully I've been cancer-free since then. So thank you very much. And if there are any questions, but I'll always be available for anybody who has any concerns or would like any further clarification on the remarks that I've just shared. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. David Michaels. Thank you. Has anybody else, anybody got any questions?
No, I know what the doctor was talking about. I already know about that. But thank him all the same, and good luck, doctor.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have, I think it's just useful for us to have the information shared. As you've said, Dr. David, that it's something that a lot of people don't really want to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, there's shame, you know, guilt, maybe, you know, different reasons, obviously, for people not wanting to share what's going on for them personally. But a diagnosis of cancer affects the whole family.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so it's really, it can be seen as a selfish act if they choose not to share, you know, what their health condition is in. Yeah. So like you, I would want to encourage men, which I have been, because I've associated with, there's another chap who in East London who had a garage, and he went to the doctor and like yourself found out that he had cancer. And he's now one of the individuals who's going around, like you, actually making people aware of the need for them to check themselves, basically, for, you know, in terms of their health. But I think we do need more Black people to do that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I had a gentleman, and he asked me, well, what about my sex life? So I said to him, if you're dead, you have no sex life. But to answer that question, however impacted you are, whether you get diagnosed early or late, there is help and support and assistance with people, you know, leading an intimate relationship with their partner. So it's all isn't lost. However seriously impacted you were, there are just many opportunities of help and assistance with your intimate side. So that person didn't have to worry. But I think it's more important to get yourself checked, and if you have got the prostate cancer, to get yourself treated and sorted, and then work out afterwards with the help of the healthcare professionals and with your partner how you're going to take things forward.
Question, thank you, David. Question from Valerie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Really good presentation. A sort of question, but maybe a plug as well. I mean, I know that prostate cancer isn't that high in the Black community.
Yes,
In the
yes, it is. It is.
Oh, it is.
Which
Okay, so
we
so
are
so
much more.
Hold on, David. Let's hear the question. Go ahead.
So my question is, because I don't know, because so in Ghana, for example, I'm not sure of the figures, but if the government knows this is the case, how are they kind of safeguarding us, or sort of putting safety measures, or, you know, like a sort of safety net in terms of funding to support and promote? Because obviously you're advocating that us women support our men, which is really good, but it's quite difficult to even get your man to go to the doctors for a flu jab, or those kind of things. So do we know if there's any sort of like money sort of schemes or anything that we can kind of plug to the local council or the government? I don't know, just to support, because when I see adverts, I don't see Black men in there, and that's probably my ignorance. I'm still quite young, but there's obviously a problem, because if I've got the notion that this is not a high risk, because I know obesity at the moment is across the board, then there's obviously an issue where it's killing our men. So I just want to get your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you for that. Yeah, well, in fact, we are in the high risk group, and Black men are being diagnosed in a much higher rate than white men. And I don't know that the government itself is doing anything specifically, but certainly the prostate cancer charity has got, as Auntie Jean said, there are a number of Black men from all walks of life. Some of them are high profile people, celebrities. Some of them are more regular people like myself. And we do a lot. Some of us do it like the way I do it, just to try and reach communities and organizations. The prostate cancer charity actually has ambassadors. I used to be an ambassador for Cancer Research UK. So those charities actually try to do a lot of outreach, a lot of awareness raising. And if people go onto the Prostate Cancer UK website, you will see a lot of specific information for Black men and their families. Thank you.
And in particularly in football, Prostate Cancer UK do a lot of plugging around this. So this symbol that men wear on the lapel is in support of prostate cancer. And I know the issue with Black men is the invasive part. You know, that they're forever, we don't want nobody touch me there, and you know, and actually, but they're putting their life at risk. And there's something about, I'd say the overall message, which, you know, for us as Black men, which is wrapped up in homosexuality, you know, that no, I don't want nobody to touch me in that way. But we are putting our life at risk. I don't know if you want to say more about that.
No, definitely. As I said, this digital rectal examination, I think it has put people off. And as I say, for all sorts of reasons, whether it's people's beliefs or whatever, or their concerns about homosexuality or whatever. But what I say to people, don't put that uppermost in your mind, because the first thing you have to do is have the blood test. So at least have the blood test first, and then see that then you might need nothing else. The blood test might show that the health of your prostate is so healthy that you actually don't need the digital rectal examination. But have the blood test and then work through with your doctor, work through with a specialist. But the things I say, if you don't want a man doing it, ask for a female doctor. But then the thing I say, it's such a brief, that physical examination takes it's such a brief examination. And as I said earlier, these are professional people that are doing that work all the time. They use utmost sensitivity. In fact, when my GP was doing it, my doctor was a woman. She actually asked me if I wanted a chaperone present while she was doing it. And I said, no, doc, I'm very comfortable with you getting on with it. You're a professional. You know what, you're a professional. You know what your job. And it's about my health and safety. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being so open, and you know, hopefully your openness will help other men to also be open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to move swiftly on to our next.
Can I just ask, David, would you mind putting your contact details in the chat if you wish?
Oh yes, I'll go and do that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we're going to move swiftly on to our next presentation. We usually have a break at this time, but this time we've got a little bit of music for you. So I'm going to introduce you to our brother Chancellor D, who's going to introduce you to a brother called Wadada. So Chancellor D, can you hear me? Okay, yes, wonderful. Oh, brilliant.
Greetings all crew and all the attendees, you know. We are outside. It's a breezy Friday evening. It's the night is simmering, but I've got water here to give, just to blow some breezes with you. So we're going to take it away.
Thank you.
Where am I?
That was Shooting the Breeze, some Wada breeze. Over back to you, Auntie Jean. Some more? Oh, can't hear you. Can't hear you, Auntie Jean.
Got to unmute myself. So sorry. Thank you so much, Chancellor D, and thank you so much, Wadada. It was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking some time out from where you are. So thank you very much. And Chancellor D, hopefully we'll be seeing you soon.
Of course, definitely soon, man. Yeah, man. You know, there's so much things. You know, like they say, it's a new kind of dimension of living. So let's live it.
Beautiful.
You know, for real, man. You know, yeah. You know, and everybody else, full joy. The rest of this strong what we're gonna have. It's not a weekend, it's a strong start.
That's right.
And skillful guidance.
Give thanks. Wonderful, Wadada. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Peace. Okay. I hope everybody enjoyed our, as I said, our interlude. I see nobody moved, so everybody enjoyed that. So that's absolutely wonderful. Our next our next presentation is a sister. I think she's actually presented from America. Yes, I don't know what part of America, but you're there. Yes, and
Yes.
her name is Sister Delali Osun, and Sister Delali is going to be speaking on the UNIA. And it was the stroke ACL, the 100th year centennial, and why it's so very important now. So Sister Delali, the screen is now yours, and welcome. Thank you.
Yes, give thanks and big up to everybody who already went. You know, blessings to you all. I'm really enjoying these talks and being with the family. I'm learning so much. I actually had two people from me went to the Panama Canal. My grandfather went, wow. And my uncle went to the Panama Canal. So I do know some of those stories, and I have a horrific one myself from my granduncle. And I want to say give thanks for inviting me to be a part of this talk, and I appreciate that. My phone is ringing, I'm sorry.
That's typical.
You know, just as soon as I come on, the phone
yeah.
But I wanted to thank you, but I want to introduce myself and give you a little bit about me and who I am. My name is Sister Delali Haligah, and I was actually born in England. I was born in Paddington Green Hospital, and I went back to live a couple of years after that. Sister Dr. Sandra Richards is a very good sister friend of mine, and my son was born in England as well, so I do have a little kind of link. I know you, Sister Jean, Auntie Gina. I'm sure I saw you at one of those.
Yes.
I am the Minister of Art and Culture for the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. That is the association that Mr. Garvey, Marcus Garvey, sets up for African people to be a step up to uplift us as a people. Mr. Garvey is his association, which we call a government, is celebrating its 100th year centennial. And the centennial is for our 100th anniversary of convention. Brother Royston, do you have my Brother Royston? Do you have the slideshow? Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you.
Do I have your slideshow?
I sent it to you.
Okay, people bear with me.
I'm sorry. Listen, I'm not tech savvy.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
a country girl, even though I was born in England. I'm a barefoot country girl from Jamaica. Okay, so, so I'm just how it is, you know. Okay, I'll talk in the meantime. So Mr. Garvey, in his infinite wisdom, comes, of course, everybody knows he comes to America. He sets up the UNIA in Jamaica, of course, and then he comes here and he sees that everywhere he goes in the world, Black people are at the bottom. You know, he goes to Panama, he visits Venezuela, Nicaragua, Trinidad and Tobago. He goes all over Europe. He goes to all of the states in America. And the one common denominator is that the African people that he sees are in the worst condition that's possible. As the elder just said, Panama, look at the horrific conditions that we actually had to deal with going to work in Panama. Okay, and these are real. These situations are real. And so Mr. Garvey says, that's one great thing about Mr. Garvey. He says, you know, if you don't see it, Mr. Garvey encourages you to make it happen. So Mr. Garvey creates the UNIA on July 20th, 1914, and he brings it to the US. Now, in bringing it to the US, you have to understand just before they have convention, what's happening in the world. Any luck yet, brother?
I am not seeing this at this moment in time.
It's in your chat. I sent it to you in the chat.
In the chat?
Yes, it's in the chat, the file.
I
just learned how to do it, by the way, today.
Okay.
Don't expect too much like some of the other people here. I'm just barefoot at it. I just learned how to do it today.
Okay.
So, all right. So,
keep talking. I will catch up with it.
No problem. So let me set the stage for before Mr. Garvey actually calls for the first convention of the Negro peoples of the world. Now, we're just basically coming out of being enslaved, number one. Number two, there's a lot going on in the world. See if you can identify with any of the things I say that may be happening today as well. Okay. One, there's a pandemic. Sound familiar? Okay. Spanish flu is taking a toll on the world. The world is ravaged. And you know, if other people are doing well or they're being cared for, you can almost bet that African people are at the bottom, are not getting the medical attention that they need. They are dying 10 times as much as other people. That's going on in the world. This is just before convention. Two, the world is in upheaval. Right now, what's going on just before the convention in 1920, in the South in America, there's a major upheaval. People are being shot, and I'm talking about African people. We're being shot, hung. Hey, wait, don't go. Very nice. Can you go back? Thank you. All right. So backtrack a little, but this is our 100th, it's our Centennial seal. So as you can see on the seal, one God, one aim, one destiny, 100 years of convention, August 1st to August 31st. So yes, what does that say? August 1st to August 1st. Okay, August 1st to August 31st. And you see on it as well, the red, black, and green. A lot of people are not aware that the flag was actually created by the UNIA. The UNIA creates the red, black, and green, and it's ratified on August 13th, 1920, during our first convention. We know that red is for the blood that must be shed for the liberation of our people. It's nice to think that we're going to talk our way out of all of this, but our ancestors had to shed some blood, you know, whether it's figuratively or literally, for our upliftment and our liberation. Black, of course, is for your beautifully melanated skin that everybody wants to steal. And green, of course, is for our land, Africa, our motherland, that we have to make sure that we build a foundation in, because that is ours. Africa is ours. On either side of the seal, you see on the left-hand side, it's the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World. That is a document that I'm going to speak about a little bit later. Thank you. And then on the other side, you see Ethiopia, the scroll, and that's for the Ethiopian national anthem. Ethiopia, the land of our fathers, is the national anthem for the UNIA. In 1990, we adopted the Ankh as one of our symbols. And of course, everybody, I hope you recognize the words on the bottom, Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. Those are Mr. Garvey's words exactly. Thank you, brother. Next slide. All right, so Mr. Garvey says, Mr. Garvey sells us to ourselves. We're at a time in life where, as I was saying before, just before the first convention, African people around the world are having the hardest time possible. In the South, what's going on now is people are being raped, lynched, murdered, hung, drawn, and quartered, set on fire. The children are being fed to alligators. You're being skinned alive. People are experimenting on you. I mean, and this is all happening. It's coming to a head in the summer of 1919, 1920. They call it the Red Summer. And some people call it the Bloody Summer because that many African people were being killed. What happens is Mr. Garvey is going around and he's speaking and he's saying to people that, we are too large and great in numbers not to be a great people, a great race and a great nation. He emboldens African people to stand up, grow a spine, and take what is yours in this world. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you. So Mr. Garvey sets up this first international convention of the Negro peoples of the world. And again, it's August 1st to August 31st, and it happens in Harlem, USA. Harlem at the time is a hub of culture and art, but these, the Harlem Renaissance actually begins because Mr. Garvey is giving African people this wind underneath their wings, this impetus to do, the strength and the courage to stand up and speak up for yourselves, and not only ask for what you want, but start to demand what you feel is yours. And Mr. Garvey has these parades in Harlem. 25,000 people come to the first International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World. What you're seeing here is what we call the Black Cross Nurses, or the Universal African Black Cross Nurses. May I see the next slide, brother, please? Thank you. Of course, I don't know if you recognize the main three people in the photo in front of you are Amy Jacques Garvey, Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis, she's in the center. Yes, in the center. She actually becomes the international organizer for the UNIA, and Mr. Garvey kind of rates her amongst all of the women, even his wife, in terms of what she does for the organization. Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis is the one who creates the Universal African Black Cross Nurses. And that, of course, is the Right Excellent Mr. Marcus Messiah Garvey to your right. Thank you, brother. All right, so this again is the Universal African Black Cross Nurses in the parade, and they were 20,000 deep. Can you imagine the sight of all of these African people in their uniforms under the banner of the UNIA? It gave people a sense of pride, A bit about the African Black Cross Nurses. Shortly after World War I, and that's something else I wanted to speak about. Shortly after World War I, African people were not afforded the same kind of medical care as European people, as you saw with the elder who spoke about the Panama Canal. It was very similar to that. What happens is the Red Cross is created for white people. White people with their disasters, you could call the Red Cross. There was no one for you to call. You, your Black self, you just had to deal with it. And so Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis in 1920 creates the Universal African Black Cross Nurses. And it's not just a group of people who decided, oh, let's go and do a thing or two. These women were actually trained health professionals who went in, received training on maternal issues, natural medicine. They were trained in health and welfare, child rearing, growth issues with children. And anytime there was an issue in your community, it was the Universal African Black Cross nurses that would come to you. And they are in their dress uniforms now, but their regular uniforms were green with a white cape and a big red cross on it. Thank you, brother. Thank you. All right, so this is, like I said, Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis, she from the UNIA-ACL. She becomes the international organizer, which, think about it, in 1920, 1919, women are not thought to be people who are in the forefront, definitely not internationally. Women don't even travel internationally without another woman. It's thought that you're some kind of loose floozy if you travel by yourself. This sister strikes out, and she is traveling all across the globe in the name of the UNIA. Just a note about her, Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis is a well-known, what do we call, dramatist. Yes. So she's on stage. She is a star at what she does already when she meets Mr. Garvey. She's you know, past her so-called midlife, okay? And she decides when she hears Mr. Garvey speak that she's got to put down the stage career, because this UNIA and Up You Mighty Raised and Let's Uplift Our African Selves as People, that's got to come first. So she gives up her very lucrative stage career and takes on the mantle of the UNIA. Thank you, brother. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is one of the vehicles for the Motor Corps. I heard just yesterday, I was doing some research, that there were 200 vehicles in the parade in 1920. 200? Wow. 200 motor vehicles in the parade in 1920 at the first convention. And if you look to your right, you can see that's actually Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis there in the back of the car next to the gentleman with the plumed hat. Thank you, brother. This, of course, is not, she's the second wife of Mr. Garvey. This is Amy Jacques Garvey, but she's definitely not coming in second to anyone. This sister is, she's an African warrior. She fills you with that spirit. She says the doll baby type of woman is a thing of the past, and the wide awake woman is forging ahead, prepared for all emergencies and ready to answer any call, even if it be to face the cannons on the battlefield. She's serious about what she's dealing with, and she is an author. She becomes the editor of our newspaper, The Negro World. She's also a mother, and later on, actually, she wants to become the president general of the UNIA. So she's a very good leader. She's definitely a woman to be reckoned with. Can I have the next slide, brother? Thank you. Am I going too fast? Is it okay? Okay. Too fast? Yes, okay, great, okay. Okay, this, and I just wanted to give you a little snapshot. I didn't want to have us be here, you know, giving you the whole sordid story of the UNIA, because a lot of people know it already, but here are some things that we don't know. The UNIA ratifies a document called the Declaration of the Rights of the Negro People of the World, Negro Peoples of the World in 1920 at convention. And on the 13th of August, they present this document. And this document has got to be, and it's still noted as one of the best documents ever created to speak about the disparities of being a Black person, an African, and what it's like to live on this planet. And it speaks to a lot of the ills that we're going through right now. And you would be surprised if you read the full document. I didn't put the whole full document here because it was just too big. But if you read it, a lot of what it says directly speaks to what we're going through right this minute. Okay, so anyway, let's just read this for a second. The Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World. This is the preamble. Be it resolved that the Negro people of the world, through their chosen representatives in convention assembled in Liberty Hall in the city of New York and United States of America from August 1st to August 31st in the year of our Lord 1920, protest against the wrongs and injustices they are suffering at the hands of their white brethren, and state what they deem their fair and just rights, as well as the treatment they propose to demand of all men in the future, They didn't say, we're going to ask you. They said, what? The treatment they proposed. And they say, we complain. And they set out 12 complaints. If I'm not mistaken, it's 12 complaints. And this is just one of the complaints. That nowhere in the world, with few exceptions, are Black men accorded equal treatment with white men. And of course, we're talking about women as well. Although in the same situation and circumstances, but on the contrary, are discriminated against and denied the common rights due to human beings for no other reason than their race and color. Okay? Can I have the next slide, please? This document, for the time that it comes out, in the early 1900s, 1920s, there is nothing like this that anybody has out for African people. Nowhere in the world is anyone of an African descent standing up and demanding that people deal with you in a fair manner, demanding that they recognize that you live, not asking you to recognize that your life matters. Okay, all right. Did you get that? Okay, all right. In order to encourage our race all over the world and to stimulate, oh gosh, typo, to overcome the handicaps and difficulties surrounding it and to push forward to a higher and grander destiny, we demand and insist on the following. You see, that's what separates Mr. Garvey from a lot of people. And that is actually why some of the other leaders of the time had it out for Mr. Garvey. Because Mr. Garvey wasn't asking you. He wasn't going to come to you and beg. Mr. Garvey demanded, and he asked of his followers to demand what is yours, demand your rights, stand up for yourself, because that is the only way we're going to do it. Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. Doesn't just mean you can accomplish what you want to. It means you can accomplish what you use your own force, your own life force, your power inside to create and make happen. Okay, so the Declaration of Rights is there? Yes, okay. So this is the first article in the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the world. Be it known to all men that whereas all men are created equal and entitled to the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and because of this, we, the duly elected representatives of the Negro peoples of the world, invoking the aid of the just and almighty God, do declare all men, women, and children of our blood throughout the world free denizens. Means we're free to go anywhere we want, we can go and live anywhere, free denizens, and do claim them as free citizens of Africa, the motherland of all Negroes. Can you imagine in 1920, someone saying willfully that you are African? Come on. A lot of us grew up in Caribbean homes where you say, Africa? What? Don't bother call me African, be not African. Okay, you know. Mr. Garvey takes the mantle and he says, we are African. Africa is our homeland. Can you turn the page for me, brother? Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm gonna paraphrase because it's a lot of information, which I know you already know, but just little bits if I can give you. All right. And so the flag is one of the articles that actually comes out of convention. In 1920, the 25,000 people file in for 10 hours to get into what was called Madison Square Garden. And our ancestors and Marcus Garvey wrangle out this document, the declaration. And in it, they say, you know something? I want to read something for you, actually. In 1900, there is actually a song that comes out, and it's called, it's by Will Heelan and Fred Health. And the song says, every race has a flag but the coon. Very popular song for the time, unfortunately, by some European people. And Mr. Garvey says, you know something, we are going to remedy that. That's one thing I love about Garveyism. You know, if you don't see it, create it. And so the red, black, and green comes out of that very nasty little song. Mr. Garvey, along with the ancestors, creates the Universal Negro Improvement Association flag. That is actually its proper name. It's not the Black Liberation flag. It's not Bandera ya Taifa. I don't know what other people call it. It's not that. It's the Universal Negro Improvement Association flag, the red, black, and green. And one of the other things that goes on during convention is that Mr. Garvey and the ancestors create what's called a plebiscite for the UNIA. And you notice Mr. Garvey says, it's not the United, it's not the Caribbean, it's the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So Mr. Garvey is looking at the whole world of African people, all of us. And he realizes that we have no one, nothing that represents us as a people. And so he thinks to create the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and not only to create an association, a group, but to create a Black government. And that's what the UNIA is. The UNIA establishes itself as a government, as a plebiscite. And what that means is that you have to have a flag, you have to have a constitution, which we do have a constitution. You have to have your anthem, which we talked about before, Ethiopia, the land of our fathers. There's one more thing. And you have to be recognized by other world governments. And during the time of Mr. Garvey, the UNIA is recognized by other governments, not only recognized, the UNIA has its own passport. You can go on your UNIA passport to Costa Rica, Panama, Trinidad, and people accept your UNIA passport because the UNIA is thought of as a government. Thank you, brother. Okay, these people are the signatories. I don't know if that's signatories, is that right? Of the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World. These people here signed the declaration. All of these ancestors here. And if you look here, right here, the lady with the white hat, do you see her? Do you see her, Brother Royston? Yes, that's actually Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis. Yes, she's the only one that I recognize. I'm sure there's others in there, but she always stands out for me. I love her. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Okay, and so the convention is glorious. It riles people up. It pumps their blood. Yes, we can create, we can make a future what we want to be. Our children do not have to be preyed upon by the KKK, because we know that at the time, that was what was happening. Stick a pin. The summer, the red summer, with the bloody summer, what actually happens is the KKK, you know the KKK, right, Joe? No? Yes? Yeah? Okay, so the Ku Klux Klan in America is the terrorist, that's the white terrorist organization. In the time of Mr. Garvey, just before he gives convention, the KKK is seeing a jump, an exponential jump in membership, okay? That, you know, the KKK, just very much like the police, yeah, I said it, they were the same people who were the judges and the lawyers and the doctors that people saw every day, but they put on their white sheets at night. And during this bloody summer where African people are being pummeled and just horrific things are happening to them, the KKK is enjoying a jump in membership because two things basically. You have to remember too that during that time, World War I had just ended. Here come these African men, proud and beautiful in their uniforms. They are carrying their guns and their swords, and white people basically are starting to get a little nervous. Oh, they might rile up and do something and kill us all or something like that. And so because of that, now what they decide to do is to go on the attack. And they're pulling people out of their homes and they're burning crosses. And these are the situations, right, that are happening just before Mr. Garvey gives this, this convention. People wonder, like, how did he get 25,000 people? Remember, there's no TV, there's no telephone, there's no Snapchat, there's no WhatsApp. How does he get the word out to the world that we're having this convention? And even more impossible, how do we get 25,000 people to descend upon New York to have this convention? And it's gotta be one thing, what? Sacrifice. It's what's important to you. If you feel your life is at risk, then you're gonna make the move to be a part of something larger, to to grow and to feel protected. Let's be honest, okay? All right, so here we go. This is the one of the entities. Mr. Garvey sets up the Black Star Line, and the red, black, and green star is above Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis. This group is the group that did go to Liberia. The Black Star Line, just a little bit about that. There was a ship at that time that was thought to be the most forward, technologically advanced, most beautiful symbol of white mastery over the seas. I can't put it any different, but that's basically what it is. And that ship is a ship that they say, oh, this ship is so fabulous, it will never, ever, ever sink. This is the best. That, of course, is the Titanic. Now, the Titanic, its name was actually called the White Star Line. Yeah, it was the White Star Line. So Mr. Garvey, in his wisdom, says, okay, they got the White Star Line. You know, we're gonna have the Black Star Line. And that's actually how the Black Star Line gets its name. Yes, okay. This is a document from the Black Star Line. And then this is Liberia, because Mr. Garvey sets up the Black Star Line to do what? To foster trade, because Mr. Garvey understands what has to happen. We can't just want something, right? We can't say we have programs and we're gonna do this. We have to back it up with what? Economics. Economics. Everywhere Mr. Garvey goes, what does he do? He sets up a business. He starts to print. He sells his newspapers. He's making sure that African people's dollars go into African people's hands. And so he knows that economics has got to be the next step after you get woke, right? After you know I'm conscious, second thing, you should be trying to build a business, okay? So he's decided the Black Star Line is now going to do international trade. So we're gonna go to Africa, we're gonna, you know, get things from Africa and bring it back to America, do all the trading in the Caribbean as well. And so they start with the Black Star Line. Thank you, Brother Royston. Okay, and here's what it really is all about. It's about African people controlling what happens to African people. It's about the Black government. And that's what Mr. Garvey sets out to do with the UNIA-ACL, to have African people have a voice and a collective voice, because we know that you can go and Auntie Jean can go and Brother Royston and Auntie Junie and Sister Dr. Sandra Richards, we can go individually, but they're not going to hear you, are they? They won't. That we have to join together. Mr. Garvey's point, his main point to me, his strength, is organization. How does someone without Snapchat, without Zoom, without constant contact, get 25,000 people to come to convention? 5 million in all are who Mr. Garvey is servicing during his time as President General of the UNIA, all right? That's one thing, sacrifice, and two, organization. And we can still do that. And we've got all these other things to be able to organize, so we definitely can do that, right? We need something to represent us as a people. No one since Mr. Garvey, we all know that, no one since Mr. Garvey has accomplished what he has. No one has touched as many people as Mr. Garvey has. Everybody who's come out of Mr. Garvey and the UNIA has turned into an African consciousness proponent. Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad was a member of the UNIA first. He was a Garveyite. Malcolm X's parents were Garveyites. His mother and father were officers in a division, all right? So Martin Luther King even touts Mr. Garvey. So does Kwame Nkrumah, all right? We need one thing that's going to recognize us as a people. We need one vehicle. All right, thank you. Brother Royston, thank you. So the point of why I'm here today really is because we know all of that happened and we know that's in the past. And yes, we stand on tradition. You know, I'm the Minister of Art and Culture. Culture is the engine that informs you as to what you do as a people, how you live your life, how you die, how you raise your children, what you believe, what you eat, where you work, how you save your money. So we We love our culture and we respect our culture because we know it is those ancestors who have passed, whose shoulders we now stand on, right? But we know also that we've got to move forward. We cannot always live in the past. We've got to do the Sankofa, go into the past, bring out what is positive and bring it into the future to propel us to the future, all right? This right now is a wonderful brother president. He is the President General of the UNIA. His name is Michael R. Duncan. And Mr. Duncan is the 10th successor to the Right Excellent Marcus Garvey. And this is him and his family, and they are actually in Liberia. This brother has a very good heart, but even more than that, he's got the vision and the fire of Mr. Garvey in his belly. He is a successful restaurateur. He has 2 restaurants, Jamaican restaurant, you know, in Queens, and that's his wife. They're all from Jamaica, okay? And he means well, but more than that, we know that lip service alone is not going to do it. There's a phone again. Okay, don't listen to the phone. Yes, and this is his grandson, and this is his son up above that. And this is the first lady. Her name is Sophia Duncan. Very nice sister, very livicated. Can you turn, please? Otherwise, and thank you very much. This is actually the President General. He has created something with our livication. It's called the ROC, the Restaurant Owners Corporation. It's FACA-ROC, actually. Okay, so it's the Federation of African Caribbean and African Caribbean and African American Restaurant Owners Corporation. What is a mouthful, right? Okay. About 3 years ago, the President General said, because he's a restaurateur, which is good, because Mr. Garvey does encourage us to deal with business. He says, you know, there's a company called Jetro in America. And keep me to time. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not going over. Am I? Good? Yes? Okay. All right. So there's a company called Jetro. And Jetro basically goes to the Caribbean and Africa and buys all of the foodstuffs, brings it back to America, and resells it to all of the Caribbean restaurants at 10 times the markup. So this man here, our President General, said, you know, why can't we just do it ourselves? Some people would be kind of scared, but we said, no, we're gonna do this. So he did the research and found out, and what he decided to do is to have us sell shares, very much like Mr. Garvey sold shares at $5 a share in the time of the Black Star Line. With the cost of living markup, it comes to about $650. So we did a speaking tour all around the US, and we reached out to everyone, and we were selling the shares to this FACA-ROC. We tried to sell people on the idea that we can do for self. There are actually very few Black owned and operated supermarkets in the States, period. If there are maybe 10, you'll be lucky. We sold the shares, and we were successful in doing that. 3 years ago, we came up with $1.5 million with a little over 300 of us. Come on, give me a clap. Come on, somebody. Yeah, that's right. $1.5 million, just us regular Black people. And let me tell you for sure, nobody is rich. None of us are rich at all. We're just regular, hardworking African people who believe that a better day is coming, and that if we don't control our own destiny, somebody else will control it for us. And so 3 years ago, we started the ROC, 15,000 square feet, not no little pian store, you know, okay? 15,000 square feet, meat, vegetables, organic food. We have growers in Sierra Leone. We have growers in Kenya. We have growers in Liberia. We have growers in all of the states. We have growers in the Caribbean and in Jamaica and Trinidad. We are supplied by African people who supply us. So that African dollar is being circulated amongst us. The only way we're going to do it is what? Together. Brother Royston? These are 2 pictures in the rock. Yes, okay. See, that was nice and short. So I encourage all of you. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I knew something was missing. This is the newest venture. This is Liberty Farm. Now, we all know that Mr. Garvey, his dream, the black print, was to have his home in Liberia, to build a city in Liberia, and to have African people be able to go to Africa. Africa is ours if we don't claim it. Believe you me, if you go to Africa, you'll see a whole bunch of people who don't look like you. I've lived there, I can tell you, okay? What the President General did was, and let me tell you, this is a clandestine kind of divine story. Imagine this. Your sister meets a man in the bank about 20 years ago. He looks like he's okay. Your sister, you know, you get to know him. It's a nice guy. He's from Liberia. She gets married 20 years ago. They have children. They're all over the place. You know, he's a footballer, and he seems like a pretty nice guy. Fast forward 20 years, and that same man is up to be the president of Liberia. The President General is related to the president of Liberia. I couldn't have made that one up. You know, yeah, it's his brother-in-law. Now remember, when Mr. Garvey goes in his time with those people, Lady Henrietta Davis, the US government infiltrates and makes sure that they can't make headway in Liberia. Now, 100 years later, President General is the brother-in-law of the president of Liberia. I mean, if that is not divine destiny, I don't know what is. And even though he doesn't use his link with the president to make way in Liberia, you can't help but that was just divine. You know, that's just divine. And so the brother you see here in the center underneath Liberty Farm, he's receiving a blessing from an elder in Liberia because he's been there since the pandemic. And he says, I may never come back. I may never come back. He's been in Liberia since then. The picture down here on the left, you see, is the farm, 5,000 acres. They have already gotten their first, second, and third return. They did cabbage, they did watermelon, they did cucumber, and they're growing. They're growing everything that they can grow. Potato, you see all of that up there. Lettuce and tomato and papaya, pineapple, okra, corn, watermelon, eggplant, sweet pepper, cabbage, cucumber, banana, hot pepper. I'm hungry now. But all of that is what we are growing at Liberty Farm. Now you see this picture up here to the right? That's the President General, and now he's teaching. So here's the next thing we are doing. You see, you can't rest on the laurels of what our ancestors did. You got to move, we got to build, and we can do it. We have the power, we have the fire in our bellies, we can do this. Over here is the President General of the UNIA, that's Michael Duncan, and the children here are now part of a new initiative we're starting, which is called the Marcus Garvey Academy in Liberia. Let me tell you the story about that really briefly. When the President General went to Liberia, there were 3 communities, and the communities were disjointed because there was no road. Being a man of action, being a Garveyite, the President General hires the machinery and cuts a road to connect all 3 villages, right? Solve a problem. In connecting the 3 villages now, there are hundreds of children who don't have a school. No school. Let's face it, in Africa, if you don't have money, your child is not going to school. They're just not. So we created the Marcus Garvey Academy. And there's a sister there, she's the High Commissioner General. Her name is Sister Rosemary James. I think the next slide is her. Is that Brother Royston? No, it's not, okay. Yes, that's her. She has started the Marcus Garvey Academy, and I started myself, something called the Black Star of Excellence Scholarship Fund. As I said, in Africa, if you don't have money, your children are not going to school. It's a really, it's a vicious cycle because your parents don't read, you come up, you don't have the money, the children don't read, and you're stuck. This is where Garvey and Garveyism really comes in, because we are doing for self. That was Mr. Garvey's main mission. That was his main message. Do for self, self-reliance. Think of anything that you want, that you would like to create, and know that it is within your communities to do it. That the money that we always look outside for, it's with you. If you say, you know what, I'm gonna sacrifice £3 a month, 10 of you do that, you can have a good little piece of money by the end of the year. It is possible, it thoroughly is. Next slide, my brother. Is that the final slide now? No, there's another slide. Oh, yes, wonderful. These pictures are of the 62nd International Convention, and it was actually held in Liberia. You know, Mr. Garvey never gets to touch African soil, and he wants to go to Liberia. And so we brought Mr. Garvey to Liberia. These are people on the left here. You'll see that that's some of the people. There's some of the Black Cross nurses. They came from all over the world. We have divisions in Chicago, Washington, Philly, Kenya, Tanzania. We have one in Nigeria. Ghana, we have 3 divisions. I'm trying to remember. Jamaica has 2 divisions. We have people all over the world. This is the President General, bottom left. This was our flyer for the International Convention. If you look really closely in the Africa, where East Africa is, you'll see white. With that mask. I'm sorry? Okay. We'll see George where? No. On the other side. Isn't it east? Okay, I'm sorry. In the middle, that's President George Weah in white. That's the President General on the right-hand side of him. And on the left is a brother, he's the 2nd Assistant President General. His name is Brother Raymond S. Duguay. These are in white over here, 2 elders of the UNIA. We've had people in the UNIA for, right now we have some 40-year veterans, 30-year veterans. And then below him, actually, below them is the Black Cross nurses as they paraded through Liberia, West Africa. Black Cross nurses are still alive and well. They're creating masks. In Washington, Buffalo, they're also making hand sanitizer. So they're still active. The next slide, please. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, just looking at time.
Yes, I'm finishing.
Okay. All right.
And I think this is the last slide. There's one more slide and that's it. These are the hardworking people of the UNIA. They're just like you and I, regular people, teachers, doctors, lawyers, mothers, fathers, children. This is the youth division. This is the division in Buffalo. This is the women of the UNIA. That's me speaking at an event. This was maybe 1st of July to celebrate, yes, August 1st to celebrate the beginning of the convention that's on top. And then there's another brother, he's out of Chicago. And that's basically it, brothers and sisters. Can I see the next slide? That's the end? Yes, see, there you go. If you want more information or you'd like to be a division, that's how we group ourselves. You can always go to the UNIA, www.unia-aclgovernment.com, and you can get in touch with me. Race first, everybody.
Yay, yay, yay. Wonderful. Thank you for the information. I mean, you give us some information that we didn't know nothing about. Thank you so much. And we have to talk. We have to talk. We have to talk.
Yes, please. You're the Garvey Village, right? So come on.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. All right, you'll be hearing from us very soon.
Yes, yes, I'm blessed. Thank you.
And we have to invite you back so you can do a proper another presentation properly and more fully and less rushed. Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. I said to myself,
no
I
problem.
can't get all this in one.
No problem. But unfortunately, we've got no time for any questions. We may have some question time sort of like at the end, but we got to run back now to part 2 with our brother Elder Vasco Stevenson for the West Indies and the Panama Canal connection. Thank you so much, sister.
Thanks,
Thank
Delali.
you. Thank you. And with that, Brother Elder Vasco, are you ready for part 2? You disappear on me now. Brother Vasco.
You're mute.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna look for you now. You're muted. You're muted again, Brother Vasco. Find that mute button and press it. Thank you. Are you still muted? Brother Vasco, you're still muted, my dear. Press that button with the microphone in red, with the red line. Unmute. No, can't see it. Can't see it. Where are you?
Can you hear me now?
Yay!
But
Yes.
it wasn't at my end that it was muted.
It was at your end.
But it just said
we can only request you to unmute, but we can't unmute you. But anyway,
but it just said the host has unmuted you.
No, I said request to unmute. But anyway, okay. Fire away. The screen is now yours.
All right. Okay. I'm going to get back there, and I'm going to share the screen. Yes.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. All right.
Oh dear. All right.
Henry.
Okay. I'm trying to resume share. Should I do that, Henry? Royston, should I do that?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I just clicked on resume share and nothing seems to be happening. It says your screen sharing is paused.
Don't know why.
I have no idea.
Maybe you need to come out and go back in. No?
No?
Yes, so just come out. You need to highlight the presentation that you want to share.
Mm-hmm.
And then click on share screen.
Okay, I tried that just now. Panama Canal.
So you need to stop sharing first.
Okay.
Right, now go back. You're in there now.
Oh,
so
you're
just
out. You're in there.
Increase the screen.
Okay.
That's it.
Is that okay now?
Yes,
wonderful.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Now, all right. So I've now got 25 minutes to finish the presentation before I take questions and answers, right?
Yes, you have.
Okay, fine. Now, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly then. What we have here now is an old screenshot of Caribbean people, Africans in the canal. And I kept the original caption on this because it says steam shovel at the canal. And what the person who took this picture was focusing on is this. These 200 people down here meant absolutely nothing to him, okay? Now, if you look at the terrain here, you see a big, almost a mountain to the right, and over here, you also have a very precipitous piece of land. So at any moment, these could have fallen down on these people, and it did happen quite often. And what would happen is that they would leave these people there under that large chunk of land that had fallen on them, and they would start digging elsewhere. Okay. Here is a picture of men cooking at Panama. Remember that some of the people who went to Panama just turned up. They were not officially there. And so they could not participate in what sparse accommodation and facilities were available to them. So they had to cook, you know, for themselves beside the track. Now, of course, this led to malnutrition of a very high order. And because this place had a lot of mosquitoes and other diseases, they would give them quinine to cope with the malaria and other things like that. and their immune systems were quite weak, and quite a lot of them died, okay? These guys who are digging holes to blast through what was known as the Calibra Cut. And this is a 7-mile long range of mountains where most deaths occurred. And of course, the dynamite was pretty volatile at that time. And even if a man was sweating and he wiped his brow and that fell on the dynamite, it had a tendency to go off. And these were called powder men. And this was the most one of the most hazardous occupations there. And here again is a picture of powder men carrying 50-pound boxes of dynamite on their heads. Quite often that dynamite would just explode, right? Here, another picture of a landslide, and you know, the mountainside just came in and wrecked a complete train, all right? So very quickly. And what these men did to boost themselves up is they started to say a little dirge. And if you don't know what a dirge is, it's a funeral song. And they would say, fever and ague all day long at Panama, wish you were dead before very long at Panama. And that is what literally gave them some kind of comfort to encourage them to carry on working, right? Now, de Lesseps, his company failed miserably, and quite a lot of Jamaicans were stranded in Panama. And the Jamaican government had to pay to get them back to Jamaica, okay? And then what happened is that the Americans now came in and bought out the country from Colombia. In actual fact, to get the isthmus, as it was then called, they blockaded 2 ports on Colombia, one in the Pacific and one in the Atlantic, and forced Colombia to sell them that tract of land that we now know as Panama. So the country of Panama did not come into being until 1903. Prior to that, it was called the Isthmus. And so the Americans came in 1904, and the Canal Zone then became an official part of America. And what was now Jim Crow etiquette now became law. So even if you worked in the Canal Zone, when night came down, you had to vacate, otherwise you could be arrested, right? We had fewer Jamaicans because when the Americans went to Jamaica to recruit, the Jamaican government said, no way, if they want to go to Jamaica, they have to pay £1, but when you're earning 10 cents an hour, £1 is a lot of money. So very few Jamaicans actually went under the auspices of the Americans. Now, here's something very interesting. In 1908, 2.5 million American dollars was spent on entertainment for only 1,000 white workers. 2.5 million, that's a considerable amount of money to spend for 1,000 white workers. And where did the Americans get their people from? You can see Jamaica here at the top with only 47, and right down you have the islands, yes, but here is Barbados, where they went and they got just under 20,000 people from Barbados, a very overpopulated little country out here in the middle of the Atlantic, about 1,500 miles from Panama, whereas Jamaica here is only 700 miles from Panama, which is here, okay? And here is a photograph, 1909 this was taken, a boatload of workers from Barbados arriving in the port of Cristobal in Panama. Now, these were called deckers because they were on deck on this steamship. And what was interesting is that all these men packed on deck, very few facilities and amenities, okay? Some didn't even have food. Others who brought food had to share it with them. They had light clothing on, and the distance and the journey took sometimes 2 weeks. So you can imagine roasting hot during the day, but because you're at sea, the nights are bitterly cold. And on one occasion, there was an outbreak of malaria, and one of these ships was asked to stay out in the sea for an additional week. So you can imagine what was going on here. And here it is again, yeah? Okay. And this is the accommodation that some of them had. This is what they were going to, despite the fact that promises were made earlier on that they would get good wages and good accommodation. This is where they had to live. Some had to sleep in the rail cars. This is a whites only clubhouse. Accommodation for single white workers. And again, the deeper you go, more blacks, the deeper you go. And this is a very precarious situation to be standing on, because this piece of land here could easily have shifted, and these guys up here would come tumbling down. And that also happened to cranes that were up on the hills up here. So quite often the land would give way, the cranes would come down, and a lot of people got killed, but also a lot of people got maimed, okay? Very little is ever mentioned of them. And here's another report from, excuse me, a magazine. The accusation that black workers were sometimes disposed of, excuse me, in the dumping grounds, simply rolled down an embankment, then buried beneath several tons of spoil, appears in several accounts and is undoubtedly based on fact. And so the deaths under the American stewardship between 1906 and 1920, they put it at about, say, 45,000 Barbadians went to Panama, and the deaths were about just under 6,000. That's the official figure. The unofficial figure is, of course, much higher than that, okay? And of course, to get down the malaria, the incidence of malaria, one of the managers, Gotels, started a fumigation process which reduced the death rate somewhat. And here we go again, workers all the time. And this happened in 1913, massive landslide burying another train. Let me now play a bit of a video for you, okay? If it will play. This, I managed to find a video of 3 men who actually worked on the canal, and they were giving their testimony. And I hope this actually plays, because to me, this is very relevant and pertinent to the whole presentation. But I've got a little circle going around and nothing happening. I think the computer is playing up a little bit.
Okay.
So,
did you do the link the computer sound
sorry?
with optimize? You know when you did the screen share?
Yes.
That's not the question. Have you joined? Were you logged onto the internet?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
Although it flashed up a little while back that the connection was
Unstable.
unsecure. Or unstable, that's what it said, yes.
Okay.
So that may be the reason why it's played up. Microsoft PowerPoint is not responding. That has just popped up on the screen.
Okay.
All right, so let me just continue talking and hopefully it will come back in the next couple of minutes or so. But what this video is about is 3 men who actually worked on the canal and actually survived. And they were telling their stories about their experiences on the canal. And really, it's a pretty harrowing bit of information, because one guy said that when the pay car came and was actually paying the wages, they were using dynamite, and the dynamite just went up. Dynamite was particularly new to some of these men as well. They didn't know how to handle it properly. And of course, also to some of the men who were malnourished were given quinine, which affected their hearing. So even sometimes when a call went out that they were going to use dynamite, some of these men never heard it, and they too actually went up with whatever was was in the vicinity. Okay, so that is what took place. Now I've got a choice here whether I should restart the program or wait for the program to respond. What do you recommend? Or close the program?
Can we skip it?
Skip the visual?
Yeah, the video.
Well, we can.
He said, can you restart the program? So that might restart it, because the as you can see, the screen is kind of it's gone into sort of like a shade, isn't it?
Yes, it's okay.
It's not showing.
I'm trying to restart the program, and then I will skip down to this particular slide and see what happens again. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. It says screen sharing has stopped. The window's closed. So I'll try and get the program back up. I'll try and get the video back up, and then I will skip down and see where we go from here. Okay, shall I try the same screen again, or shall I try another one?
No, yeah, just try. Give it a go.
Okay, I'm trying it, but it doesn't seem to be working.
It's not coming up.
No.
That's you retrying the screen share, yeah?
It says it cannot play media, so I'm going to skip that and go forward. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now here's the. Can you see the screen at your end?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't come up yet.
Okay. No.
No.
Well, I've got a screen in front of me. Zoom is back.
You might have to come out and repeat what you did before with Royston.
Yes, yes, it looks like it. Come on, Royston, your expertise is needed here.
So what have you got in front of you?
I've got Zoom, just Zoom, a screen with Zoom on it.
Okay. What? Right, top, what does it say?
Nothing at the top. It's just a blank screen as before.
Okay. Let's take another look, shall we? Come on, thing.
I've got a picture of you on the screen now.
You don't want that.
Shall I click share screen and see what happens?
Yeah, go ahead, click that.
Are you with me now?
Yay.
Yep, you're back on.
We're back. We're
Right.
back.
Okay, good show. Okay, so you want full screen again, do you?
Yes, please.
Are we there?
Yeah, we are.
Good show. All right. Okay, so this is just a picture of the silver people in the pay queue, yes? But what has happened also is that wherever men go, women would follow. And what happened is that outside of the canal zone, women came, and women were very industrious, starting little businesses, washing clothes and, you know, being nannies for the whites who were there and what have you. And so what you can see here is the formation of a community, really, you know, despite the arduous and hardship that these people have to face. And you can see this is a wedding. Here you have school children, okay? The beginning of a community, children in the school garden, and they set up credit unions, right? So they're industrious people who are getting on with making the best of a worse situation. And this one should be of interest to everybody looking on. This gentleman, Marcus Garvey, he was actually at the canal twice, 1910 and 1911. Now he left his work in Costa Rica. As you know, he worked as a clerk for a banana plantation there. And he heard what was going on in Panama, and he went and saw the atrocities for himself. Unfortunately, when he went back to Costa Rica and tried to educate the African Costa Ricans as to what was taking place in Panama, they didn't take what he was saying quite well. They accused him of trying to rock their boats because they were so-called settled and middle class in Costa Rica. And he wasn't very well, or his information was not very well received, okay? But I believe that this had a lot to do with his own drive to move things forward. And in 1914, we then had the grand opening of the Panama Canal. And in that year, 353 Black workers were killed and 61 white workers were killed. Almost one per day in the Black community, right? So I'm asking the question now. They're saying that it is 500 per mile and the canal is 50 miles long. That would only make 25,000 deaths. But from what you've heard so far, would you say there have been only 25,000 deaths? And here we have the silver symmetry looking all run down. And here is the gold symmetry, which is maintained by the French government. See the difference? Even in death, there's this separation of not only resources, but care, attention, love, affection, anything else, right? And the final slide now, and I'll take questions after this. When I was researching for this, I came across this poem and I quite took a liking to it. And I wrote a letter to the curator of the museum, the Silver People Museum in Panama, and asked him if I could use it. And he wrote to the author of this bit of poetry, who was then living in New York, and he said, yes, I could use it in my presentations. So very quickly, let's run through this one, and then I'll take some questions. Two men of age once sat down to reminisce about their bygone days, hard work and bliss, of hardships and woes, building the great ditch, dividing two continents, which made Panama rich. Embarked in Barbados on the steamship Ancon, packed as sardines, the voyage seemed long. Arrived in Cologne, lovely women, very good rum, whisked off to trains, for the jobs here we come. Barbadians, Jamaicans, men from islands we know, English, patois speaking, muscles with ebonic glow. With picks and shovels, a loaded wheelbarrow in tow, to divert the river Chagres of its endless raging flow. Everlasting, torrential, drenching, punishing rain, deep mud, landslides, forever aches and pains. Recall loading dynamite daily on unstable trains. Deathly perils befall us, a constant vigil of cranes. We came here with high hopes to labor and return to our loved ones on the islands with money to burn. Our pay was plain silver, others got glittering gold. Even now, our fingers are almost worn to the bone. Such is our history, to be remembered and learned. The ordeals we endured, proudly carrying that flame. We survived that era, to be forgotten just the same, as our legacy and culture flushed down memory lane. Now, the main concern here is that with time, everyone will forget about the canal, and this bit of Black history will disappear into oblivion. And what I've dedicated myself to do is, wherever I get the opportunity to make presentations like this, I will. So thank you, Auntie Jean, for inviting me to do this, to make this presentation. This was written by Luis Emmanuel, and he was born in Panama City, okay? So the whole idea is, we are not going to let our Black history just get flushed down. We've got to revive it, bring it up to the fore, and let our children and grandchildren be aware of it, so it passes right from generation to generation, okay? So that's it. I'm not going to go a bit deeper because this has to do with what happened after the canal was built, and where did the people go to. And one interesting story that came out from this, a lot went to, some stayed in Panama, some went all over the world, as far south as Argentina, America, some joined the British West India Regiment. But the bit that really resonated with me was that 26 of them got a ship and went to the Canary Islands, just off the coast of Portugal, and then got another ship from there and went back to what was then the Belgian Congo.
Thank you.
And I found that quite, that for me was the highlight of the whole thing. Here are some men who realized that the ancestors were dragged screaming from Africa and they were going to go back home. That meant more to them to get back to the motherland than staying in the Western world.
Yeah, fitting, very fitting. Thank you so much. That sounds like a part 3 to me.
Well, ironically, there were 2 plaques that were sent, one by the British government and one by, you can see this one, commemorating 1904 to 1914, British West Indian contribution, donated by the government of the United Kingdom, July 2014, okay? It was also a small charity in London that actually bought some land in Panama for those who were maimed to have some kind of pension or something to hold on to, because nothing was paid, no pensions, nothing at all to these unfortunate people. But what I also find quite disturbing about this is this particular plaque. The guy who was responsible for cutting the, trying to cut through the mountain range, Gaillard, his wife commemorated this in 1913. And take a look at the 2 individuals here with the shovels. Really, it's a gross misrepresentation of what took place. The impression anyone would get looking at this is that it was whites who built the canal. Without the Africans, nothing would have happened. And the evidence shows that over 100,000 African brothers died when the canal was being built. Okay.
Wow.
Questions?
Well, as thank you for a brilliant presentation. Has anybody got any questions?
No.
After all that.
But very informative indeed.
Could I say,
thank you, Brian.
Can I say something, Auntie Jean?
Yes, you may. Hi, Marie.
I'm so glad that, yes, it was very informative. I'll echo everybody with that, Vasco. I rushed from another something else to make sure I got here. I didn't know what time you were going to be speaking, so I'm so glad that I made it. But just to let you know, there's so much history that we just don't know about. It's like recently, when I say recently, quite within the last few months, really, top of this year, I found out that my grandfather fought in the First World War and that he's from Panama. What I don't know is, was he born there or, you know, but it's clearly uncles, you know, sort of were in their 80s and so on now that's telling me. One of the things about those times is that people didn't really talk about what they went through, I suppose, just like with slavery or just like with going to war. And I think what we've sort of seen here with Vasco's presentation is that I can imagine the trauma that, you know, these people suffered both in getting there. It just looks to me like another, you know, enslavement process. You take all these people packed like sardines and then you work them to death. So it's just this continuum, which is sort of depressing really, where you're supposed to find the joy of, oh, you know, diverse people from the Caribbean were actually doing this. Yes, it was, but once again, you know, if they discover something, they can't be credited. If they're doing something, they can't be credited. So it's quite distressing really to just see this playing over and over and over again.
Well,
so I just want to say that.
Quite quickly, let me also say that I also make other Black history presentations. I do King Leopold and the Belgian Congo, which is extremely harrowing as well. 10 million Africans died and a lot of children had their limbs amputated. I also do the Herero genocide, the first concentration camps of the 20th century in what was then Southwest Africa, known as Namibia, okay? And that's ongoing at the moment with discussions and all of that kind of thing.
So Brother Vasco, let's flag those up to do separate presentations for the future.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
because it's, you know, thank you, because you are telling our story, and our story needs to be told. I still remember as a young boy recognizing I came here at 11, but they would talk about Panama in whisper about who went.
Yes.
And we didn't, and the assumption was this person went and created another life and neglected the people back home. He stopped sending money, but actually they died.
Yes.
And this was true on my side, on my ex-wife's side. You know, there were people that just went off to Panama and nothing more was heard.
Yep.
You know,
absolutely.
So that story needs to be told, because if it's not told, then we get to forget the atrocities that's happened to us, as Anne-Marie said.
Well, I had the pleasure of presenting this at City Hall when Boris Johnson was Mayor of London.
2 points.
Yeah.
And I think the question is rhetorical. You know, so why did the Americans buy the canal and therefore make that strip of land part of America? That's the first question. And the second one, why has the French bought the burial site or taken on responsibility for the burial site of the gold people?
Right. Well, the first question first, you can see the strategic importance of it. If you saw the earlier slide, where if you had to get from the Pacific to the Atlantic, you had to go right down South America and come back up, a distance of 21,000 kilometers. Whereas by cutting a canal through 50 miles of, difficult terrain was worth it. So if you wanted to get, say, a warship from the Pacific to the Atlantic, you just come through the canal. Okay, so it was of strategic military importance as well as for trade and other things like that, right? And the other one was the French. Well, because a lot of people died when the Frenchman, Ferdinand de Lesseps, who built the Suez Canal, he was responsible for a lot of deaths when his tenure was there from 1881 to 1889.
Okay.
Thank you. They've got a couple of questions there. There's a number, so there's no name, 77523. And then Sister Junie
this is
afterwards.
Marlene. Sorry, my name didn't
You
come
keep
up.
on changing. Why are you hiding?
I have no idea. I tried to put my name in, but whatever happened, it don't. All I wanted to say, it was just great listening to this story, because all we ever hear is that Caribbean people and African people helped to build the Suez Canal. We never know what they've had to actually go through. And you went so deep into it. It was quite horrifying to listen to, but it's things we need to know. And I think a book needs to be written, a simplified version of how you've told it, need to be written about it. As they say, history need to be rewritten. And I've heard it talked about, but not in the depth that you've gone into. And I'd love to hear part 3 or 2, whatever, because it was so interesting, even though I was cringing listening to some of it. And
so we didn't hear we didn't get to see the videos, because that's pretty graphic, you know. And one guy in the video said when they had the explosion, the rail car, the pay car went up, and they were picking up the heads and the legs and the arms and limbs for about 3 to 4 days.
And then that brass,
Thanks,
the brass
Marlene.
that you showed at the end was
Marlene,
just,
just pause. Let's get Sister Junie in. Let's get some more questions in.
All right. No
Thank
problem.
you.
Sister Junie?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Brother Vasco. Absolutely excellent.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, because you triggered something. I remember as a young woman hearing about these HP2 workers that were trying to get work from the Caribbean. And I wasn't quite sure if it was a later stage of development or if it was anything to do with the Panama building.
Not to my knowledge. I've never come across it in association with the Panama Canal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
But
for
I
that
will look it up.
clarification.
HP2 workers, yes?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much indeed.
But remember, of course, we had a lot of migrant workers from the islands going to America, and even some ironic stuff as well, because I'm from Barbados, where sugarcane was the order of the day. And there were quite a few people, young men there, who would never cut sugarcane in Barbados, but they would go to America and cut sugarcane.
Ah, okay.
Status, you see, I can't let anybody in Barbados see me cutting sugarcane. It's a very menial, low-class job, but I will go to America and do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you able to tell us what the name of the video is?
No, I can't, because
Okay.
it hasn't got a name as such.
Okay. All
But,
right.
You know,
Yeah, because somebody's asked if it's on YouTube.
I believe I got it from YouTube. So
You
there's a
believe you have.
possibility you can find, because I've been doing this presentation now for how many years now? Probably 15.
Quite a long, yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes.
Any more questions before we finish up for the evening? Questions, not statements.
Well, I was about to make a statement to say that the number of people in the chat has gone up from 22 to 46.
Well,
okay.
and
Yes.
that's the,
There's a lot of people giving thanks to your presentation, awesome presentation, and basically should be in schools and more thanks for your presentations. I'm just like skimming through. I'm not actually reading through, but yes, we do need to have a part 3.
Yes,
Has anybody else got any questions?
Miss Valerie.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I was gonna say, Auntie, my hand's up. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. I was gonna say, yeah. So I didn't look at the chat, but I was gonna ask because the professor, because he sounds like a professor. How do we challenge the curriculum in the UK? Because just a bit like what Anne-Marie said, you know, so much has been not taught to young people and children. So what would your first ask be, or how would you approach challenging the curriculum in the UK? Thank you.
To whom is that question being asked?
To yourself.
To myself. Okay. Oh, good grief. Well, it's a big hill to climb, but every time I've approached anyone who is in the know and is in a position to give an answer, and I ask the question, they then pass it back to say, oh, it's up to the individual teachers to do it. But of course, when the teachers try to do it, they then get the head or somebody say, well, that's not part of the curriculum. And I remember my granddaughter, when she was at secondary school, they were talking about, it was Black History Month, which we know is nonsense. And out comes the usual thing, slavery, slavery, slavery. And she stuck her hand up, she said, and asked, why is it that we're always talking about slavery? And my granddad has been showing me pictures of black cowboys and all these different people. And all we can talk about is slavery, right? And the teacher said, well, it's not on the curriculum. A black teacher is not on the curriculum. So we can try and try and try, but I think that forums like this and you know, community halls when we can meet again is really where the action is going to take place. And if we rely on the schools to do it, it's a bit of a challenge. It may happen, may not happen.
Well, we're going to have to put together a documentary, aren't we?
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. That is something that we need to do. A full length.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Yes.
Brother Vasco.
My pleasure.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much. You know, anytime at all, Auntie Jean calls, I jump to it. And
Thank
Okay.
you so much. We'll
Have a
be
good
calling
evening.
we'll be calling you very soon. Thank you
Okay,
so
thank
much.
you. And Junie, it's very good to see you again. Well, I'm going to invite you onto my radio program again.
I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. I feel really honored to hear you tonight. Absolutely awesome. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
I will do. Thank
before
you.
before you go, Elder Vasco, let everybody know where they can find you on the radio and what radio.
Right. Every Sunday morning, I am on oneharmonyradio.com from 10 o'clock in the morning to 12. And of late, I've been playing quite a lot of tapes on what's happening in the world at the moment, what's going on behind the scenes and what the media doesn't tell you, okay? So if you're listening at 10 o'clock this coming Sunday, you can get it on TuneIn, or you can go on your computer or your mobile phone and get it. There'll be lots of information as to what's going on behind the scenes. And I do lots of other things, as you know. And if anyone wants to talk to me privately, I also make lots of presentations on the prostate gland, as you know. And I do body scanning with my scanning machine. So my telephone number is 0772 556 7262.
You'll have to repeat that slowly, please.
Yes, 0772 556 7262. I've repeated it slowly because I know that some people can't write fast, yes?
And I'm one of them.
Okay, and I have a website called blackhealth.co.uk.
And somebody says to put it in the group. You know how to do that?
To put it in a group? No, I don't. And I've literally got 3 minutes to vacate this building I'm in.
Okay.
I'm at Croydon
Thank you.
Supplementary.
Yes,
Croydon,
and you got to find your way home as well.
And
so
I've got to get home, yes.
Thank
Okay.
you so much, Elder Vasco. Thank
My
you,
pleasure.
thank you, thank you.
Have a good night,
Okay.
everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. All right. Okay.
So,
and sorry, go on.
I just want to make an announcement. So Zoom has put out that from September, it's changing its format and structure a little bit, that either people have got to have email addresses, so there's a film, so you come into a site with an email address, or the waiting room facility. So in other words, if we had email addresses for participants here, then you'll get in easy. If not, then it becomes a longer process. This is something that Zoom is introducing in September, which will happen universally. So people everywhere will have to use email addresses more.
In other words, you'll have to register.
Yeah.
Basically, you'll have to register before joining.
And that provides.
Auntie Jean,
yes.
Brother Royston, sorry to interrupt. I'll keep it short. We do have an African-owned Zoom, which I'm sure some are aware. So I just wanted to bring it to light.
Have you got the details?
Most certainly, Auntie Jean, of course. I'll send that to you, don't worry.
Okay.
But it's just in light of...
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Are you able to speak it out?
Not the details. I need to. I will fish them out and send them to you.
Bring it.
Wonderful.
Bring
Thank
it
you.
with you next week, so we can put it in the chat room, please, brother.
No problem.
Okay. Wonderful, brother Nat. Thank you. Great having you.
All the time. Love family.
I heard somebody else's voice there.
Yeah, just me saying give thanks for Sister Delali.
No, I was saying, is it Jitsi?
Sorry?
There's a Black-owned one called Jitsi, I believe. Jitsy.
We'll get it for next week.
Okay.
We'll get it for next week. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. All right.
So, yep. You closing?
Oh yeah, I thought you were saying something. But
No?
yes, a big thank you again to Brother Vasco for doing us part 1 and part 2. And also a big thank you to Dr. David Michaels, MBE. And you'll be seeing Dr. David Michaels on a later date at the African Culture Market. I believe it's probably the 30th of October of Messiah. And also big thank you to Sister Delali. I'll be speaking to you soon, very soon. And also a big thank you to Brother Wadada. I know say he's not here, but still giving a big thank you. Thank you to everybody for joining us this evening. I hope you had a belly full of information and knowledge that you can take away and digest, and you know, and retell it to some youngsters and retell it to somebody else. And the more we keep on retelling our story as it is our story, is the more it makes us more wiser people. So thank you. Royston, you got anything to say? And don't forget to come back next week, Friday.
Yep. Thank you all and good night.
Can I just add something, please?
Yes, my dear.
Under the mango tree?
We'll do that next week. We'll do that next week. Thanks.
Well, people here may not be here next week.
Okay. So Saturday, the 1st and 3rd Saturday of the month. The next one will be the 5th of September from 5 to 8 p.m. We meet under the mango tree, which is supported by Sister Dr. Sandra Richards, myself and others. And we welcome you to come and join us to have conversations, to laugh, to reminisce, to connect, to be connected to each other. Invite you to take a picture of this flyer, because again, access will be access is through sending me an email that will get you access to come under the mango tree. And we are also doing it in conjunction with raising some funds on behalf of the Garvey Village social enterprise. So we welcome you to come and participate. We welcome brothers, you know, also to come and join us, and to sit, suck some juicy mangoes and have some fun. Okay? So take a picture of this page. It is my email address in there. Send me an email. I'll send you a link so that you can come in. A melanin-rich moment under the mango tree.
Lovely. And also, while you're taking your pictures, I'll let you know I've got my papers in my diary in front of me. So next week, Sunday, in the Auntie Jean's African Culture Market, we have a Dr. Njay, and he's got a school and he lives in Sierra Leone. We also have Elder Eric Hootie. We've got another rendition from Wadada, and return of Dr. David Michael, MBE. We will tell you his story of his life as being one of the first Black policemen in the borough of Lewisham. So I look forward to seeing you all next week, Sunday. But before that, look forward to seeing you next week, Friday, back here in the Garvey Village. Unlock the chains and keep well, where we give you the remedies and keys. Thank you very much.
Bring a friend. Or bring a enemy. No, just bring a friend.
No.
Just bring a friend.
Good night, everybody. On that note.
Good night, Cheryl. Good night, Cheryl. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.
Good night. No, wonderful. Absolutely
Good
brilliant.
night.
Thank you. Good night, Oshenwumi. Good night. Good night, Anna. Good to see you.
And you. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
I enjoyed it immensely. It was very insightful and
good.
It was fabulous. I enjoyed every moment of it. It made me like the other sister said, just cringe at all the things that happen to us as
Yes.
black
Yes.
people, but it also opened our eyes up to things that the lies that we've been told
Yeah.
over the
It's
years.
it's insidious.
Yeah, it is insidious. I love that word. It's one of my favorite words. Insidious. You've touched on a wonderful word that I use. I should be using it now forever.
Yes.
You know, and the thing is, all that lovely stuff about Marcus Garvey at the beginning, from the sister before, and then about the Panama Canal, and then showing that plaque, that's showing that it's just like white people built it, as they do with everything.
Exactly, they whitewash
Just to erase
everything.
us, constantly
Whitewash it.
erase us.
Yeah.
So we just erased all the time from history, and you know, and I just think, oh, I've gone. Sorry.
No, you're here. I can still
I'm still
see you.
there. I don't know
Yeah, you're
what's
still
happening. I
there.
don't know what I did. I bit like, oh, I know what I did. I put my hand on something. No, but you know, just constantly do that. I mean, and I don't know how we as black people, we obviously got such strong, I don't know, things that keep us going. Because when all of these things happen, how we still continue to rise every day is unbelievable.
That's why we fulfill those roles, because we are tenaciously strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And they all know that. That's why they're afraid of us.
That's
true.
true.
And they try to break, I mean, they just thinking, what can we do to break their spirits? They're still rising up. We kill them, we do this, we do, but to have
We're
these
still
knowledge,
here.
and we're still here. So I
We're
want to
still here.
thank you very much for putting this show on. I was call everything a show. This is
excellent.
So
right.
I'm gonna go to my bed now. So
yes, night all. Night night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks. See you next week.
Yeah,
See you next week. Good night. Good night. Good night.